Greetings, Vinyl Bear. Here in lowly, humble Vinyl Bear studio here in Padre City, South Korea. If you've been following this series, you'll know that I set myself a little bit of a challenge to elevate my Airwindows hit record meter rating from legendary to transcendent. And as you can see here in the B-roll, I achieved that as seen in the last video. And I got it all the way up to AA transcendent, which is there isn't a higher rating. Now, once again, Airwindows meter ratings are not something to be chased in and of themselves. I've had mixes and masters that pegged AA transcendent and were either not to my liking or were somehow just unacceptable. But as previously stated, if you're happy with the way that a mix is sounding, then why not chase the rating and see how it sounds after you nail it, right? That's what I did here. And I did it with some maneuvers that I described in the last video. The most important of which, in my opinion, was the maneuver that I did with an Airwindows tool called Air4. So that's the background and the lead into this video, which centers on something called Airwindows Console8, which is a console emulation system. And a routing or misconfiguration error that was also standing in the way of achieving a higher rating on meter, and was also really compromising the, how can I say, the integrity of the soundstage. I was hearing problems. See, sometimes you really need, you really have to be ruthless. I should speak for myself. I really have to be ruthless and also listen to just that little voice that's, hey man, stop, slow down, stop. There's something wrong here. And I do try to heed that voice without fail, but you know how it goes, life. And I don't know. I felt for a while there, I felt like something wasn't quite right. I thought maybe it was in my mastering chain. And so I thought, well, probably the chain just needs tweaking. I need to go back through and troubleshoot it. Right. But it turned out the mastering chain was fine. The mastering chain, my approach now is that I want to be happy with the way the mix is sounding before it ever hits that mastering chain. Right. Like if push came to shove, I could release it pre-mastering chain and I could stand on it. It might not be optimal. It might not have that final polish, but see, that's exactly what I want the mastering chain to do. Is just to provide a final polish, a final sheen, a final balancing of energies, right? But I want that mix to be pretty much like 97%. That's my ideal, right? So anyways, where was I? I got a comment kind of needling me for using scripts, but I do that because I tend to meander, and these videos are really time sensitive. I want to respect your time, and I've got a 15-minute limit. So anyway, let's dive in. What you're looking at here is my console view for the Blood-Soaked Bay mix project, okay? And so really there are four main, this is an auxiliary track, that's a vocal auxiliary, and then I've got National Resoelectric track right here. That's the slide guitar. Carlos 2, that's the name of one of my acoustic guitars, which is in Nashville tuning. And Lean Bear is my most beloved acoustic guitar. That's it. And then the fifth element in the arrangement is what I did with the reverb sends. But that's neither here nor there for this video. We're going to talk about console emulation systems in general for a second, and we're going to talk about the Airwindows approach to console systems, and then from there I'm going to show you how Console8, the routing architecture of Console8, and then how I made an error in that routing, and that error was a critical error. It caused problems. One of which was it was holding my, I believe, was holding my Airwindows meter rating down. So I'm going to pause this, collect my thoughts, and back in a jiffy. Why a virtual console? Why even use one? In a standard DAW, digital audio workstation, the summing is mathematically perfect, which often results in a flat or clinical sound. A virtual console introduces nonlinearities, specifically sine and arcsine encoding, that mimic how physical circuitry handles energy. It creates more 3D space for the instruments to live together, and it gives the mix a sense of pushback that the hit record meter rewards. Okay, there's my little bit of script. Okay, virtual consoles. It's a thing. If you've never looked into it, I suggest that you do. Before I get into this, I just want to. There's something else I'd like to show you. I'm using Sonar, the cakewalk iteration of Sonar. I am a contrarian crank, and I realize that other DAWs are more hip, like Reaper. I'm a Sonar guy, and in Sonar there's something called the Pro Tools channel strips, and they were real cool and fun for a while. They were really good. Each one has let me see here. There we go. Each one starts off with a little console emulator. You see this for the auxiliary track. There's you got S-type, N-type, A-type. Guess what those stand for, right? SSL, Neve, API. And they're pretty good, right? But when I ran these console emulators through my 5 kilohertz sine wave test, they were adding aliasing distortion at an unacceptable rate. And so no more Pro Channel. No more Sonar Pro Channel. So anyway, back to Airwindows consoles. Let me see. I'm losing my way here. Okay, there we go. Now, a word about Airwindows console systems. There's quite a number of them to choose from, and this is the result of a search query that I did in Brave browser. It's got a AI assistant that generated this response. So, but this has a good overview here. I asked which real-world console did Airwindows model its console console system after, and it says Airwindows console system is not modeled after a single specific real-world console. Instead, it is an abstract algorithmic emulation designed to replicate the behavior and sonic characteristics of analog console summing, particularly the way signals interact and glue together during mixing. The Console8 plugin, for example, is explicitly based on the Quad 8 console, a highly influential West Coast recording console used in the 1970s for recordings by artists like Steely Dan, Frank Zappa, and Joni Mitchell. It was known for its high voltage power supply, unique filtering, and distinctive sonic character. Okay, other plugins in the console series like Console MC, Console X, Console 9, Console 8 are inspired by the general principles of analog console behavior rather than exact replicas of specific hardware. They focus on creating a system where the encode-decode process mimics how real analog consoles sum signals, resulting in a natural, cohesive mix that feels glued together without relying on traditional saturation or compression. That's a pretty good overview. And, Console LA, I like the sound of it, and I would love to use it in this project for reasons that should be obvious based on the description. But even amongst Airwindows, the Airwindows ecosystem is really optimized for tracking and mixing at 96K and above, and I'm working at 48 until I can afford to upgrade my hardware and storage and all that. So Console LA was out, but Console 8 was most definitely in. So back to my let me see, where is it? Back to my, this is my track view, this is my console view. And I got to pause here again real quick, be right back. Okay, so the routing can seem a little bit daunting at first, but it's really pretty simple. At the track level, you start each track chain with Console8 channel in, and you end each chain with Console8 channel out. If you have an aux or a bus, you start the chain with Console8 SubIn. You end the chain with Console8 SubOut. And then finally, on the master bus, you begin the chain with Console8 BussIn, and you end the chain with Console8 BussOut. That's it. Pretty much. Here are my buses over here. First in the chain, sub in. Ending the chain, sub out. Sub in, sub out. Sub in, sub out. Over here on the national, channel in, channel out. Because this is an aux, it's got sub in and sub out. These are the tracks feeding the aux. Channel in, channel out. So even if you're not using anything in between, the bare minimum in the what's called the effects rack here in Sonar is you're in and you're out. And that's it. Here's where I made my fatal mistake. Because I have an older computer, it's about 8 years old now. Airwindows is pretty CPU light, but if I try to combine mixing and mastering in one project, my CPU just gets overloaded and I can't handle it. So I was splitting it between two projects. I'm running out of time. I split the handshake that's completed on the master bus. In other words, I was printing my mix with the bus in and bus out bypassed. And then I was completing the handshake in the master project. Okay. And that was breaking the summing math. And it basically wrecked my mix and my meter rating. So, wow, I'm out of time. Thank you for watching. May the winds of clarity blow ever in your favor. Over and out.